Hi and welcome to Rosebud Homestead. We're so glad that you joined our community for this video today. Our community focuses on self-reliance, food security, and emergency preparedness. And these are all critically important topics in the world that we live in today. So we really appreciate those of you who share the word with friends and family, who like our videos if you do, and then click the like button. That helps us get the word out to more and more people. So thank you so much. And we really do appreciate all of the comments that we receive. And we learn from each other, which is just really cool. Today we're going to talk about how to reduce the sugar in canning for those of us who would like to do that. But first, I have an announcement. Take a look at this package. So this came the other day. I've had so many requests to test this particular pot, the Presto digital pressure canner, and notice that it's still in the packaging. I have not opened it up yet, but over the next few weeks I am going to be testing it, and we will have a video out on it as soon as I have done a number of batches with my data logger so that I can be sure that it is reaching temperatures that are in the kill zone for botulism. So with that said, let's get started on today's topic. You may hear our wind chimes in the background. For the past, I am not kidding, 9 days, we have been hit with really high winds, just constant. And every time we go outside, my hairstyle gets rearranged. Most of us down at the university are walking around with red eyes that water all the time from the pollen and the sand that is blowing around. It's been a really critical time for us. It is all because of the horrific drought that we are in here in southern Utah, and we'll be talking about that in another video that we're going to shoot tomorrow, if the wind dies down enough for us to shoot early in the morning. Okay, so what we're going to do here is many of us, and that includes Jim and me, are very interested in reducing our sugar intake. And it could be for a number of reasons. We've been attempting to live a healthier lifestyle, and part of that is reducing our sugar. And so we would like to do that. Others may have medical reasons or other reasons for doing it. And there is lots of good news about how to reduce the sugar in canning. So our first topic is going to be canning fruit, and this is water bath canning of fruit. The first question that we should ask ourselves is, what does sugar accomplish in canning fruit anyway? Well, what sugar does in canning of fruit is that it helps retain the color, the firmness, which is the shape, and the taste. And so that's pretty important. Can we do it with reduced sugar? Well, there's give and take in everything, and the answer is not so much. But maybe it's okay to live without a little bit of those. Now, these peaches, this applesauce, and these cherries have all three been canned with reduced sugar. In order to reduce the sugar in canning, the great news is that there are no super strict rules from the USDA because sugar doesn't contribute anything toward the food preservation. And so we have a lot of leeway in how we sweeten the things that we are canning. So that is good news. Because these are processed with water bath canning, the heat, and these are high acid foods, so both the heat for canning processing and the high acidity remove the risk of microorganism contamination if everything is done right. So sugar has nothing to do with either of those. So this is how we can do it then. We can can fruits with absolutely no sugar whatsoever. Now what's going to suffer? Well, the things that we mentioned that sugar does, which is the color, the flavor, and the shape. Now, do you notice too much difference in the color and the shape? And I can promise you that the flavor of these is still fantastic. And these were canned in 2017, so they are 5 years old this coming summer. And we still eat these, and they are wonderful. And they're a little bit softer than if we put a whole blast of sugar in here. I used, what our first thing is after no sugar, is using a light sugar syrup. And so I did use a light sugar syrup for these and for these. And I know these cherries you can't see very much because the liquid is quite dark. These are 2 years old. We canned these 2 summers ago. This is our last jar. I keep saving it for a special occasion because that means then that I don't have any more and I'll just have to do more. So, and these are just wonderful as well. There are recipes for all different levels of syrup, from very light to very heavy, on page 2-5 of this book. This is Complete Guide to Home Canning, and this is put out by the National Center for Home Food Preservation. You can pay for a hard copy of this, or you can get it free online. Just download whatever pages you want, and this is again page 2-5. I don't use these recipes because we have complete control over the recipes that we can use for sweetening, and I just use my own based on the sweetness of the fruit. And so I generally use for these a 10%, which, well, roughly 10%. It's not a true 10%. I just put 9 cups of water and 1 cup of sugar in and brought that to a boil to melt the sugar, and then that's what I used in these, in the fruit. And I will put this information below the explanation of the video so you can have it. Now, with the applesauce, every batch of applesauce I make I have to taste. We have a combination of apple varieties among our fruit trees, including Granny Smith, which are very, very tart. So some years when I do just the Fuji's, I hardly have to add any sugar at all. But if there's a lot of Granny Smith, and I can tell by the color of this that there are a lot of Granny Smith in here, then when it is hot and after I have strained everything, I will taste it, and then I will just add the sugar to taste. And because the mixture is hot, the sugar dissolves, and I will also add a little bit of cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg to the applesauce. And I think we do have a video on how to do this. And so we're pretty free to do what we need to do to taste in terms of reducing the sugar. Okay, now the other thing that we can use to sweeten fruits, if we don't want to use regular table sugar, we can use syrups. Now again, because each of these has a different, we could call it a sweetness quotient, these are 3 that are mentioned in the literature, and this is just corn syrup. But notice this is light corn syrup, so it already has a reduced sugar. And if you're doing it for medical reasons, you just need to be sure that you pay attention to the label so that you don't overextend what you're permitted medically to intake. And then this is just maple syrup. I have never used this as a sweetener, but some people think that it just adds a really wonderful flavor to some of the fruits. And this is agave, and this is agave syrup, organic agave, and it adds a different kind of a flavor as well. And so the idea here is that you can just experiment with these, and this could, if you use less, reduce the calories and the sugar content of the fruit. Now, another sort of close to syrup is honey. This is some of the honey from our bees. Oh, we love this honey. We treasure it like gold because our beehives now reside with our children instead of here on our own property. And so we have a good supply of it because it keeps for 30 years. So we have a good supply of honey stored, and Jim just liquefied this yesterday. But it's nice to have a fresh bottle of this liquefied honey. This is much sweeter than table sugar, and it also has more calories. So if you're watching calories, this may not be the best thing to sweeten with, but you can use just a little bit. If you like that honey flavor, use it a little amount and taste as you go, because like I have mentioned, the rules are wide open for sweeteners. In addition to light syrups, you can also use pre-prepared fruit syrup, fruit juices. This is a great one to use. This is white grape juice, and if this is too strong for you, then dilute it with water. And the same thing with 100% juice apple juice. This is great to use in with some fruits as in place of just water. So using these fruit juices is a good alternative. What about using artificial sweeteners in place of any sugar at all? So there's a couple of things that we need to consider. You know, it used to be that the USDA said absolutely no, no, no artificial sweeteners in any canning, but they have relaxed that completely with a couple of considerations. First of all, the two on this side, anything with aspartame in it, which includes Equal and NutraSweet, and this is just a knockoff Food Club brand of aspartame sweetener, and saccharin, either of these two, there are some downsides. These are not heat stable. If you use these in your fruit canning, things are going to change. Either the taste is going to change completely, or it is going to have a very bitter taste. So with this one, aspartame completely, the sweetness goes away. It's the same as canning with just plain water and no sweetener whatsoever. With Sweeten Low and others that are saccharin based, what happens here is they are not heat stable either, and they develop quite a bitter taste in your canning. So don't use saccharin or aspartame when you're canning. If you really like these sweeteners, the thing to do is to can with water, and then after you open the jar and put them in your bowl or plate or whatever however you're going to serve them, then you can add these sweeteners and they will be fine. Now the alternative to those are these two. This is Truvia, which is stevia, and both stevia and Splenda. Now Splenda is, this was such an amazing advancement when it hit the market several years ago. This is sucralose, which is sucrose that has been adjusted, which sucrose is sugar, which has been adjusted just a little bit, and it contains no calories. And both of these are heat stable and can be used in regular canning. Now, how much to use? Well, that is the question. You can do this by taste, or both of these brands, Splenda and Truvia, have tested recipes that you can use for canning fruits. All right, so next is going to be, the rules are pretty wide open for canning fruit that we've talked about, but what about canning jams and jellies? This is some peach jam that I canned in 2019. This is apricot pepper jelly. This is about a year old, and notice that it's all set up really nicely. This is apple cider jelly, which has set up nicely as well. So jam, jelly. Plus I do a lot of raspberry jam for us. That is really our favorite. If you do natural pectin, which is what I do, I don't like adding pectin powder. I will add lemon juice to some of these, which adds a lot of natural pectin, and those are the recipes that I use, mostly of my own invention. But the amount of sugar is tested recipes. You need that sugar in order to set up, to interact with the pectin in order to allow the jams and jellies to actually gel. Now, can you do low sugar or no sugar variations of jams and jellies? Yes, you can. The thing about doing these is if you use the no sugar or low sugar, you need to use tested recipes, and most of those tested recipes are found inside the boxes of pectin. You can get pectin in little containers like this or in individual packets that can be used. And there is one, this is classic pectin. So if I were going to use pectin the way I do jams and jellies, this is what I would use. But if you're going to use low or no sugar, then that's what would be read right up here, low, no sugar right here. And then with the information, you just peel back this label right here, and it opens up the recipe section, and the recipes for using it are right inside, and they will tell you exactly how much of what you need to do when you do various types of jams and jellies with no or low sugar. So those are the alternatives that we have for jams and jellies. Now, what about for pickles or relish? This is green tomato relish. My mouth is watering right now. I only have 2 jars of this left. I made this in 2015, so it is 6 years old. And you may notice that our products here, our food that is out on our food storage, is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. That's about the rotation that we do. And these are still perfectly good. So this is such good relish, and this is green tomato relish, and the ingredients are just as crisp as can be. And that is because I used regular table sugar. Now, can you use the alternatives, either Splenda or Truvia? Yes, you can. But again, you need to use tested recipes for low or no sugar canning of pickles and relish. That's the story. And the good news is with canning fruits, we're pretty wide open. We can just pretty much use taste and let that dictate what we use. I've had lots of questions about other sweeteners, like what about monk fruit? I could not find any information on that, but since we're wide open with it, do the taste test. Do a jar of it and see if the taste is modified by the heat, whether or not it is heat stable. You'll know that by the degree of sweetness with before compared with after the heat processing, or if it leaves a bitter taste. So start experimenting, reduce the sugar. We can get healthy together as we think about low sugar canning. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at our next video.
Okay, you're on.
Hi, and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. Thanks for joining our community today. We focus a lot on what is our focus? Healthy food styles, healthy. We have been yeah, like the 2 ice cream sandwiches we ate today. Okay.
And the 2 yesterday. Hey, we're gonna have to, cut some of this stuff out anyway.
It is an important. It is an important
ingredient.
Yeah, but what is it for?
Preservative.
Oh, no, it doesn't preserve. So, Jim, can you move this way so I can see my notes? Okay, and Truvia. Truvia. I don't know. Truvia.